This is Mrs. Miller, your teacher at ELA Academy. In this grammar series video, we'll talk about verbs. Verbs are words that express an action or a state of being. That's why verbs and the nouns that perform the verbs are some of the most important words in a sentence. They drive the action. Let's look at several types of verbs. The easiest verb to recognize is the action verb. Running, jumping, swimming, reading, writing, studying, arguing, these are things people do. There are two types of action verbs, transitive and intransitive. Transitive verbs take an object. If you're trying to decide whether a verb is transitive or if you're trying to figure out what its object is, then just ask the question, what? Look at this example. Nolan Ryan threw the ball. What's the action in this sentence? Threw. But what did he throw? The ball. The object is the thing being acted on. Next example. Amy Farrah Fowler studied the brain. Studied is the action verb, but what did she study? A brain. So brain is the object. And the CSI team solved a case. What did they solve? A case. Notice that all the verbs are color-coded red and the objects are blue because they're nouns. Then we have intransitive verbs. These do not take an object. For example, the exhausted firefighter slept. He slept what? Well, that doesn't make any sense. There is no object because slept is intransitive. But what if we have some words after the verb? Does that mean we have an object? The exhausted firefighter slept 12 hours. Okay, well, let's try the question. The firefighter slept what? 12 hours. That doesn't actually answer the question what. 12 hours answers the question, how long did the firefighter sleep? So be careful. Don't assume that just any words after a verb constitute an object. Let's look at another one. The exhausted firefighter slept on a cot. He slept what? He slept a cot. Well, that doesn't work. On a cot tells us where, not what. The firefighter slept because he was exhausted. Because he was exhausted tells us why, not what. So again, these are the action verbs. Some are transitive and others are intransitive, but there are other types of verbs as well. So let's see what they are. This next type is actually one very special verb that can do a couple of different things. It's all the variations on the verb to be. I am, I was, I have been. You are, you were, you have been. He is, he was, he has been, and so on. I strongly recommend memorizing the be verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Practice that a few times until you can rattle them off without thinking. It'll really help when you're identifying verbs in a sentence. The next type of verb is the linking verb. It links the subject of a sentence to an adjective or another noun in the predicate. When it links nouns, you can think of it as being a big equal sign in the sentence. The most common linking verbs are the be verbs that we saw in the previous slide. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Also, become and seem are always linking verbs. These verbs are sometimes linking. Appear, feel, smell, taste, sound, grow, look, remain, and so on. This will make more sense when you see the examples, so let's get right to it. Usain Bolt is an Olympic gold medalist. Is one of the be verbs, so it might be a linking verb in this sentence. We have the subject, Usain Bolt, and then what comes after the verb? An Olympic gold medalist. Gold medalist is a noun, right? So if we have two nouns on either side of a linking verb, then it's acting like an equal sign. Blue equals blue. Let's try it. Usain Bolt equals gold medalist. Does that make sense? Yes. So is a linking verb here. Let's try one with an adjective after the verb. Usain Bolt was sweaty after the race. Notice that adjectives are green. When an adjective comes after the verb, try moving it in front of the subject like this. The sweaty Usain Bolt celebrated his victory. Does that work? Yes, so we have another linking verb. Let's try an adjective again, but we'll use a different verb. The car appears rusty. So again, we'll check it by moving the adjective in front of the subject. The rusty car sat in the driveway. Does the rusty car sound okay? Yes, so we have a linking verb. How about this one? The email appeared in my inbox this morning. We have a noun after the verb, so we'll try an equals sign. Does blue equal blue? Email equals inbox. Does that work? No. An email is not the same thing as an inbox. The inbox is a place where emails are collected. So what we have here is an action verb, and it's intransitive because it doesn't have an object. Remember how we check that? We ask what? The email appeared what? We can't answer that. In my inbox tells us where. Let's try a couple more. The steak smells fresh. Fresh is an adjective, so let's try it in front of the subject. The fresh steak is okay to eat. That works, so we have a linking verb. One more. The cook smelled the steak to see if it was fresh. We have a noun after the verb, so let's try an equal sign. Blue equals blue. Cook equals steak. No, that doesn't work at all, so we don't have a linking verb here. It's an action verb, and it's transitive because it takes an object. The cook smelled what? She smelled the steak. Okay, so far we've looked at action verbs and linking verbs. We'll look at one more type, the helping verb, which does just what it sounds like. It helps the main verb. The modals are always helping verbs. Can, could, would, may, might, must, shall, will, etc. So, my friend can play the saxophone. Play is the main verb. Can helps it out. Notice that when we have a helping verb in a question, something interesting happens with the word order. Can you play the saxophone? The verbs are split up, and we have the helping verb before the noun. Verb, noun, verb. Here's another one like it. May I have a cookie? Have is the main verb, and may is the helping verb. Look what happens when we answer the question. Yes, you may have a cookie. The main verb and its helping verb are back together. Then people should study the candidates before voting. Now, remember with linking verbs that there were some verbs that were sometimes linking verbs and sometimes action verbs? We have the same issue with helping verbs. The be, do, and have verbs are sometimes helping, sometimes not. Let's look at some examples. My son is mowing the lawn. Mowing is the main verb and it's transitive. What is he mowing? The lawn. Is just helps the main verb. But if we say he is thirsty and tired, then is the only verb in the sentence. It's a linking verb that links the subject he with two adjectives after the verb. My thirsty, tired son. I do love chocolate. Here, love is the main verb and do helps it out. But I did the dishes. Did is the only verb. It means I washed the dishes. That's an action verb and it's transitive. I did what? The dishes. So we looked at be and do. Here's have. The teacher has written all of her lesson plans for the week. Written is the main verb. Has helps it. But the teacher had pizza for lunch. Had is a transitive action verb. She had what? Pizza. Okay, so let's practice finding our action verbs, linking verbs, and helping verbs. Our first selection is from President John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. Okay, pause the video and find all the verbs. Come back when you're ready to check your work. Ready to check? Let, know, wishes, shall pay, bear, meet, support, and oppose. And then some of you may have marked assure, but notice it has the word to in front of it. That makes it an infinitive, to assure. We talked about this in the nouns video. An infinitive may look like a verb, but it really acts like an adjective, adverb, or noun. In this case, it answers the question why. Why will we pay any price? to assure the survival, etc. So, it's actually an adverb. If you need more help with infinitives, check my blog post for links. Our next selection is from Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. A fearful man, all in coarse gray, with a great iron on his leg, a man with no hat and with broken shoes, and with an old rag tied round his head, a man who had been soaked in water and smothered in mud and lamed by stones and cut by flints and stung by nettles and torn by briars, who limped and shivered and glared and growled, and whose teeth chattered in his head as he seized me by the chin. Okay, pause the video and find all the verbs. Come back when you're ready to check your work. Ready to check? Tied, had been soaked. That one actually has two helping verbs. Smothered, lamed, cut, stung, torn, limped, shivered, glared, growled, chattered, and seized. Did you find them all? If you need more practice, be sure to check my blog post for links to several sites where you can look for more verbs. Great job working on verbs! Be sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media so that you can be notified when I post new material. And if you like what I'm doing here, please consider supporting ELA Academy on Patreon. This is ELA Academy.